This video is for the boys, so if you're not a boy, just keep scrolling.
Did you see her eyebrows? But if it bounced on this line, then I'm going long. I'm getting ready to show you what Bitcoin has done live price movement since the time I recorded the video with this thumbnail that you're seeing, 28,200. Let's get it. Everything labeled clearly. It's all the same exact lines. And that's what's happened so far. A big potentially failure pattern at just above 28,200 target. And here is where the money question lies. How did my analysis do in regard to this specific line? I think I could have spoken a little bit more clearly or given a couple more tidbits on how this could play out. I feel that my analysis said, hey, watch out for this to break above, then come back and test it. Up to 28.2, then come test it, but it broke above barely and then tested it freaking perfectly. Look at this. Look how perfectly. So this is what big money was looking at. This line right here from that video. It just went a little bit above it, came back to test it perfectly, and then the big move. And so here's what I said in that very last video. If that is broken and used as support, so for example, Bitcoin goes up to the target of 28.2, then lands on that downward sloping line made by those 2 points on those 2 dates, somewhere around 27,000. So that line right here is about 27,007, 27,800, 27,800 in that range. Bitcoin goes up 28.2, bounces on this. I will draw it out for you so you can see. It goes like this, boom, and can stay on top. And you see something like that, even when it's under 28.2, that target. But if it bounced on this line, then I'm going long. So it did go above, and it did bounce, and I did say I would go long. However, this all happened a little bit faster than what I expected. So here's the question. Is this support on the 1 hour candles, these are 1 hour candles, is that enough support to sustainably make Bitcoin continue going higher beyond this micro range? And I would say the answer in that lies to how Bitcoin now interacts with the next essentially horizontal major line that the biggest players in the room, the players with the most money, are looking at. I think that's the monthly 21 EMA. I don't think it's many other lines that I have on here, but we can tell that big money was looking at the slope line that I discussed in full detail in that video and the video thereafter, I do believe. So let's go to see what Bitcoin has done so far on this yellow line. It is treating this as support perfectly. Absolutely perfectly so far. However, once you get Bitcoin potentially to go below the monthly 21 EMA, which I have represented as a line, I threw on the MTF EMA, the multi-time frame EMA on lower time frames, drew a line over it so it's in place. If it goes back below here, then you're likely, very likely going to get another retest, perhaps on a larger time frame of that same slope line that was retested perfectly on the 1 hour and smaller time frames. I mean, I'm on the 5 minute right now. Just look how beautifully it walked down this, and I have not moved it. This is because I have this line exactly here because that aligns exactly with the wick high, one of the 2 wick highs that make this. It aligns, it's perfectly parallel with the previous wick high back from July, or the one from August. There are only 2 dots, and this is one of them. So that was the line big money was looking at. So now my guess is that what will drive the next price, what is big money looking at, is this monthly 21. Did price behave exactly as I anticipated in that video? No. But it did go above it, came back below it, and then pounced. And I said I would go long if it did that, although I imagined it would go to 28.2 first, then come back and get it, and then I would go long. If it came back to 28.2 now, after having used it on smaller time frame supports, man, I don't know if I would go after it now. What I was looking for is a bigger break above, original break above this, as opposed to a small break or retest. And another reason why I don't think I would go after this, if it came back to retest it, is because now that it's used this as support twice, if it then flips it to resistance, it'll probably be a resistance into like a lower high thereafter. So Bitcoin could potentially go like this and seek lower highs into this area and lower high in a rough 45-degree fashion, as I do a lot in this channel. It's the simplest thing ever, but it's amazing how it works. And for new viewers, if you want to see how this works, look in the pinned comment and the description section of the 12 times I told you about 2021, 2022 being bloody. Look for the one that's Solana. It's only 90 seconds long. And watch how I use this tool, and I nailed Solana price better than anybody that I don't know, that you might be able to find on the whole internet. Just watch that video. It's 90 seconds long using the same exact tool. If Bitcoin continues to stay above the monthly 21 and breaks the current local high of 28.4 or so, whatever this was, 28.5, you do have a So now I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see this. So this is our micro horizontal channel 29.1. 29.1. If it breaks above there, then I will need to do another analysis of a larger time frame. But for now, I'm keeping that for the private community. And I gave them the exact targets and all of why of the midterm time frame and the macro time frames beyond this micro time frame chart. However, the the targets are much higher, like closer to 40K if this starts breaking because of that support line. And that goes back to the yearly high. This line is made from the yearly high of roughly 32K. And now that this has happened, I mean, this could create an explosion, and Bitcoin's been going sideways for so long. For so long. I'm invisible. It's been going sideways for so long that now that it's gotten above that slope line, even if the real move isn't up, like for example, let's say in the end, it goes back below this line. But this can be an explosive fake out to the upside, which goes, spikes up to 32K that immediately comes back to 28 something. So this explosion, price doesn't have to go one direction. It can just, the range, a horizontal range can just be inflated. So right now our range we're sitting at about 6.5% range. That range can inflate to like 18 to 20% with extra volatility. So if you take a horizontal range and like double or triple the size, what does that mean? That means you have more volatility than before, and volatility expanding can come in that form, right? It doesn't have to be one direction, not alluding to the boy band. But if it is one direction, which it could be, and I've been warning against this, even though this is not my favorite scenario, I'm still not picking it as my favorite scenario, but the probabilities have gotten a lot better for this to be a lot of upside the entire month of October. It wasn't and still isn't my favorite scenario for just an explosive move to the upside, perhaps closer to 40K. But what I'm going to do in order to change my mind is figure out how does Bitcoin on the micro timeframes react with this monthly 21 EMA, and specifically this horizontal at 29.1, which this was used as support for about 65 days. When Bitcoin in July was up around $32,000, this was the exact bottom of that horizontal range. I anticipate it has a chance to be used as resistance now. So if this is broken to the downside, I will resume my mental game plan that shit's going down because of that macro cross we talked about. If price comes above here, that is my exact probability flip point, where I think, shoot, it's now more probable that the expansion will be close to monodirectional, and we might be looking at closer to 40K targets. And so the range of those two decision-making points, it's about a 4% range. That shouldn't take too long, but Bitcoin could get stuck in that range for 20 days. It could, but it might only take a couple hours if Bitcoin decides to get back above 29.1, or to go back below the monthly 21 and then come below this line. Both of those situations can happen in a couple of hours, especially with volatility expansion. So perhaps the most important thing, the two most important things that I guess in this video are this. What does expansion of volatility look like? What can it look like? We don't know what it will look like. What can it look like? It can just be a horizontal range inflated. Bidirectional volatility. But it doesn't have to be, right? Another way it can come in form of is if Bitcoin gets over this micro range, it flips 65-day support back to support. Right now it's resistance. Then you're looking for a probability flip point right there at 29.1 if it's used as support specifically. So just going above it on a 1 hour wick doesn't count. You got to go above it on micro timeframes, come back and use it as support, just like what happened over here, what we talked about there. See how that used as support? Same type of scenario needs to happen here. And then you can say it's 51% or more probable that Bitcoin's getting ready to go closer to 40K. A lot closer to 40K. Like it becomes probable there because that's a 65-day line. And that means on a daily scale, if we want to zoom out, well, actually, I don't want to show you because I'm leaving that for the community, but it's going to be the third higher local high. So what does expansion look like? What can it look like? Two forms that I talked about. And then here are my lines. Probability flip and probability flip to the downside. Probability flip to the upside, probability flip to the downside. That's what we got. We'll see you on the flip side. You just got Tim about Woo. There are two ways to join the community to get more exclusive content. There are two YouTube tiers, which involve access to private live shows, typically at 12 p.m. noon New York time, Tuesdays and Thursdays, in which the higher YouTube tier also gets daily price updates on Bitcoin and other cryptos. And the Discord community offers multiple events each week, as you can see on this real example of a previous community calendar, which would enable you to jump on the live events, turn on your microphone, share screens with me, share your ideas, so we can knock out any questions that you have. In addition to offering tutorial series, and other exclusive content to help you in your crypto journey. And what you can do for free, which is amazingly valuable, is to look at the 12 links from 2021 and 2022, which are both in the pinned comment and near the top of the description section of this video. Those are links to videos in which I made technical analyses that now you know laid out. Go back to those videos to see how I was able to use the charts to predict it. It's all for free. I promise I'm here to help you as much as I can in your crypto journey.
July 17th, 2023.
Yeah, Bitcoin broke out of a 2-year-long channel, and it hasn't retested it as support. Look. And all of that could be stimulated. Look, that's 25, 26K. High 25s, 26. And that's a macro bullish pullback that could all be stimulated because the US 500 doesn't put it in higher high. Bitcoin keeps dropping versus that chart, and then Bitcoin falls out of the 8-month-long channel and then has to come all the way down to finally use as support something it hasn't used as support, but only resistance for a 2-year period.
Also July 17th, but during a VIP call.
There is one thing to keep in mind. This 2-year-long resistance has not been used as support one time. Over 2 years, it's only been resistance. Ever. Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be retested. So keep that in mind as well. That would be my, I don't know, I think that's my second most likely. Maybe even my first most likely that it finds its way down there, even if it means, lower lows, lower highs in the range, try all this again, and then, hits this area, maybe closer to 25 and change. But this line, I think there's an exceptionally high probability that it's going to be retested. And then if all that happens, then we are
July 20th VIP call.
Comes all the way down to so this is a 2-year channel. Bitcoin did not get above here for 2 years. Didn't even do a really fake out above it. It got pure rejections for 2 whole years on this line. This moment right here was the only moment in 2 years it got above. And look, there's no retest. So if Bitcoin, assumingly, and very safely assumingly, at some point comes to retest this, it's not a guarantee, but it's very, very, very likely. The whole question is, you have 2 questions. Will the weekly 10 and the weekly 21 uncross? So will they cross back down bearish? And will Bitcoin price then get stuck under the weekly 10, and therefore that bearish cross really, drives it down? Or when this happens, will it be more on a wick and you have a V shape and it gets right back on top of all this and they stay good as is?
July 31st, a daily update for the whole community, including the YouTube tiers.
To the downside, as low as I can see things going, is this is a 2-year-long channel that the 69K top also hit, and it was hit multiple times just in May, multiple times in May, also in April, and it's never been above. Bitcoin recently exploded above it off of the event or the news-driven price action from BlackRock applying for a spot ETF, and it has not been retested. It's an exceptionally high likelihood that it will be retested at some point in the not too far future.
August 2nd, during another daily update video.
I do fully expect a very large bounce if Bitcoin goes anywhere between 24,500 and 25,500. 24,500 and 25,500. I expect a large bounce. It could be into a lower high as opposed to continuation upward. I don't know which one, but I think it should get a good reaction from that $1,000 range.
August 4th, during another daily update video.
To the downside, I still think it's more probable that all this area, so clearly labeled here, and this tri area of interest. So the descending 2-year-long bear channel as 1, and then the top of the horizontal, bottom of the horizontal for 3. So descending line, top and bottom of the horizontal, this tri area here, it might all hit at the same time when they're crossing. So you see how this line is in between here, or it could happen just a little after. But if it happens after, then you're looking at, you actually would have a green triangle of a bounce area here. Most likely that would be a green. I would not call it a yellow triangle. I'd put that as a green triangle there, and you'd probably get some bounces there. However, if it does, if price comes down into this, 25 and change area, you're going to have extreme support here, and you're at least, it's exceptionally probable that you'll at least bounce into a lower high or more or new highs, but you'll get a bounce here. And
later on in the same video on August 4th,
a lot of times what price does is, so the second way this could go is it just goes like this, and you don't really have much opportunity because it goes down, and most of the move happens in 2 or 3 hours when we're all sleeping. Which is exactly what happened. So then your next area to get in is a bounce from here. So it is possible that there's no way to get the trade, right, short, because it just rolls, and it rolls when you're not at your desk, and it only takes 2 to 3 hours to get down there, and it's over. And then your next trade setup is a long.